Welcome, Mark Mobius, to Istanbul. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Can I start by asking about Turkey? By now, you must know that you're seen as the oracle of emerging markets, so people closely watch your every move. Are we to read anything into the fact that you're here in Turkey? What's your outlook on Turkey's prospect?
I think it's an opportunity because with the trade war, a lot of the Chinese manufacturers will become uncompetitive in the U.S. market because of the high tariffs. So there's an opportunity for other countries like Turkey to take over some of this manufacturing. And it's already happening. I've seen a number of instances where actually Chinese manufacturers have moved to places like Vietnam or Bangladesh to manufacture. Two advantages for them is that the wage rates are lower than China. And secondly, they're able to export to the U.S. Turkey is an incredible place to invest simply because you've got so many capable business people and many companies that are very well run. So over the years, I mean, I've been investing here for about 20 years. We've always found opportunities in Turkey. And I thought it was, as a result of this Bosphorus conference, I thought it would be a good idea to come and also visit some companies and see what opportunities there may be.
Can we take a step back? Can I ask you, do you think this trade war with China was needed? Was it needed to level the playing field, as Donald Trump says?
Oh, I think there's no question about that. If you consider the deficit, 300, 400 billion that has been year after year, the deficit with China has been tremendous. And of course, the quid pro quo, so to speak, which is a key word these days, was not evident with the relations with China, particularly as regards to investing in China, being able to establish companies in China. So the reciprocity was not there. So I think, what Trump did was really a step in the right direction, at least for the U.S. And I think in the long run, it'll probably be good for China, because China has to move towards a more open society anyway, if they really want to become a global leader. I mean, they would like to be like the U.S. They would like to be a global leader. In order to do that, they've got to open the economy more. And that also means having the currency more freely traded around the world.
As I mentioned, you're the author of several books on emerging markets, but you recently wrote a book called Invest for Good about this idea of ethical investing, ESG investing, environmental, social governance. Now, some people might say that turning a profit and being ethical are two mutually exclusive ideas. Why do you think they're not?
Our clients, people who invest money, are more and more concerned today about these factors, environmental, social, and governance factors, and they're demanding we, as fund managers, to address them. The other thing we've learned is that, over the years we've been investing in emerging markets, over 30 years. Okay, ESG, that terminology was not being used when we started, but when we look back, we realized that, in fact, we were adhering to various ESG practices because in order to reduce risk, we had to pay attention to what a company was doing to the environment, how they were treating their workers, how they were treating their shareholders, and how they were governing their company. So the results now show that companies that have high ESG scores do better. Their stock price does better. So when we use the title Invest for Good, we meant two things. One, we will invest to improve ESG, and that will result in better returns. And we're going to invest for good in the sense investing for the long term.
We have people like the Democratic presidential hopeful Senator Elizabeth Warren threatening to break up companies like Facebook, I guess to your point that they've become, these huge monopolies. Is that something that you would support?
If Elizabeth Warren wants to go after Facebook, they've got to think about what's happening in China and other parts of the globe, and what kind of restrictions you'll put on these companies, if you can, because the U.S. may not be able to impact these other companies. But I do think there has to be some kind of anti-competitive movements. For example, a lot of the acquisitions that Facebook and Google have made should not have been allowed. They should have allowed YouTube and WhatsApp to be independent. So I think that's where the anti-monopoly people fell down.
Now, we obviously don't know who the Democratic nominee as their presidential candidate will be, but do you think they will go for a socialist type of president or stick with someone like Donald Trump, who's very much a capitalist?
I think whoever the Democratic candidate is will move to the center, because they will realize that there's no way that the American public would elect a far-left candidate. So that's number one. And it depends on how the Democratic Party articulates this centralist sort of policy or outlook. Then on the other side, if Trump maintains his current policies and moves a little bit more to the center, which you notice he's done. He's begun to move more and more to a more center, because he realized a lot of the policies he wanted to implement were impossible. Then it'll be a more even race. At this stage of the game, if any of the current list of candidates, Democratic candidates, with the exception of Tulsi Gabbard, I think she could run against Trump and do very, very well. She's very outspoken, very knowledgeable, and more centralist. But if the current slate, any of the current slate of the most likely goes in, then it'll be very difficult. I think Trump will win again.
Okay, on that note, Mark Mobius, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much.